In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at how to load satellite images into your into TerrSet and how you create a true color composite and a false color image as well. All right, so I've already created my project folder, and so the instructions for where to find the files are going to be in your assignment details. So if you're using the Geography Virtual Lab, you're going to be going into the Y drive for your as your resource folder. And if you are using the MyCSUN software just through the regular app interface, then you'll be going into the H drive. All right, so it's always a good idea to make sure that you've got your project folder set correctly. So in this case, the working folder, that's where you want to save your files. The resource folder is where everybody's resources are located. So that's the files for the whole class. So in this case, I've got to switch these around. All right, well, depending on the way that you are accessing your files, the file path might look different. And so that is one of the things about an advanced skill set in GIS, is understanding how on your machine and how on your particular technology, how you're going to access these files. All right, so we've got this project set up. Let's go into our files now. And if you open up the Files tab and you go into your resource folder, you're going to see several different layers here. And so these are all files that end in the file type RST. So that is the TerrSet designation for a raster file in the TerrSet format. And we all see that these are on by, and then we've got a date, and then we have a designation with B, 2, 3, 4, or 8. So it's just, this is on by, this is the year, month, day, and then which band is that image. So we've got a few images from two different dates, February 13th, 2020 and May 28th, 2020. If you remember from our TerrSet tutorial, we can either double click on one of these files, or we can use the display launcher to get a little bit more of a customized way to symbolize it. In this case, we're just going to open this just to look at what this image is. So this is the image in band 2. This is 2020, 213, February 13th, 2020. This is band 2. So this is actually blue reflectance. So you might be thinking, what in the world does that mean? So the numbers here in the legend, those are the digital numbers, which is how much reflectance there was of the blue wavelength. And it's just the way that the colors look is how your software is presenting the numbers presenting the colors that go with each number. So this isn't necessarily that the clouds looked red. It's just that red is being used as to indicate a high value here in this case. All right. So typically we don't use these bands, separately to just do visual inspection. But we do have to put them together in certain ways. So what we're going to be doing is making a true color composite. And then we're going to be making something called a false color image. And you'll see why this is important in just a minute. So first of all, let's make a true color composite here. And there's a couple of ways that we can do this in TerrSet. One way is we can just do a quick composite of true color that doesn't actually save as a separate file. And then we can actually run a special tool that actually does create a new file. So we're going to do it both ways. So in this case, we're going to go to our Composer window, and you know that if you open up another layer here from your files, it's going to open up a separate window here. And what we want to do is to overlay the images on top of each other. So we do that in the Composer window. So in the Composer window, go down here to the icon to add layer, and we're going to check raster layer, make sure raster layer is checked. And we're going to add the other bands from February 13th, 2020. So go in and find 2020 213 B3. You're going to click OK. You can leave the rest of the options the same, and you click OK. All right, let's do this a couple more times. We're going to add band 2 and 3, and then we're going to add one more layer, check raster layer, and you're going to add 2020 213 B4 for band 4. Click OK. and you'll click OK. If for some reason you open up the three dots here and you don't see anything that's available, or you don't see the right things, make sure that raster layer is selected and not vector. So when we add band 4, then we get 3 images on top of each other. They're all checked, and it still is not making much sense. We can toggle each one of these on or off. But what we were going to do is make a temporary composite here. And you do that by telling the composer window that each one of these belongs to the blue, green, and red bandwidth. So you're going to highlight B2. And then you go down here to our options here, and we're going to just click this blue icon to tell it that that's the blue layer. And then you're going to go and highlight the B3 layer for band 3. Band 3 is the green band. And so we're going to select green here and turn that into the green band, and select B4, and that is red, and you're going to click red. Making sure not to choose cyan. We're not using that one right now, and we're not using the blend layer option either. So look over here. It might take a second, but you will see that the image now looks like a regular photograph. And if this still isn't, you can zoom in or out by scrolling up or down. You can drag the image around and look at different parts of this image. So we've got this, our temporary composite image here. But what if we just wanted to make a permanent composite file? Well, there is a tool we can do for that. And so you're going to come up here to our menu here and start typing in composite. And you hit enter, or you can click on the blue arrow here to open that dialog box, and we get a composite, a image compositing tool. So here you go in and you have to select which is the blue band, the green, and the red band, and you have to enter a new name for your output file. So you're going to do the same thing again, 2020-213 B2. B3 is for green, and band 4 is red. And what you're going to do here is enter your name. What you'll do here is type in TCI for True Color Image _, and we got to put in the date so that you know what the date is here. The other values here, we're going to keep at all of the default settings. You'll click OK. And we get a separate new image here, which is just one image. It's just one file, and it is a composite of those 3 bands. So we're looking at that and we think, well, the brightness, we still don't really see many details here. And that's often the case with a lot of True Color Composites, especially of tropical environments where there is just a lot of dark green background and then black soils here because it's a volcanic island. So let's look up here at the volcano, and I will tell you, but you won't be able to see this from this image, but there is a lot of damage to the vegetation around the summit of the volcano due to volcanic ash and due to acid rain. And that's not really clearly evident here in our True Color image. So one useful thing that we can do just to get a good visual, a first look at an environment, is to create a false color image. So we're going to try something called a false color image here. And the false color means that we take this band that we're telling the software is the red reflectance, and we're going to swap that out with the near infrared. So go down here and add another layer. So make sure you are back in your original window that you're working at, where you have the 3 bands. If you've closed that out, then add those bands again into one composer window. And then what you'll do is add another layer. We're going in to find band 8. Make sure you're still on the same date here, 2020-213 band 8. We're going to click OK, and we'll click OK again here. And suddenly you see the image changes drastically, and that's because it has to do with the near infrared reflectance. Still not really useful in the best way, but what we can do is I'm going to turn off this red layer here, so we just see the blue, the green, and this near infrared band. But I'm going to actually call this near infrared the band 8. I'm going to highlight that layer. I'm going to highlight that layer and then select the red icon here, calling that the red layer. and that's going to process for a second. And then we suddenly see the island turns red and it looks totally crazy, right? But it's actually really useful because now what this is telling you is anything that's the way that false color images work is anything that is actually green to your eye is now shown as red, and places where there is no green shows up as just a dark color. We can see here we've got the white clouds and then we have the red background. This is tropical island, so we've got a lot of greenery here represented here as red. But if we go up close to the volcano, we see that the ground or the Earth's surface is actually, it loses a lot of that red. And that's because there's not much stuff growing there. There's not actually much greenery there. So if you're looking at it with our true color image, we don't see that because it's still sort of a dark color, but it's not that green, live, lush vegetation. So one of the things that you're going to do here is you're going to create a true color image composite and a false color image for February 13th and for May 28th. The way you make the false color composite as a separate file is you open up the composite utility again, and we're going to ask you for the red image band. You're just going to tell it band 8. You're going to tell it to use the you're going to tell it to use the near infrared as the red image band. And so when we create our output image, I'm going to call this false underscore color underscore onby 2020-13. Keep all the defaults the same, linear with saturation points, create 24-bit composite with original values, and click OK. And then I get the standalone image of my false color. All right, so we're going to do that for February, both of those two images for February 13th. And we're also going to create two images for May 28th. So the shortcut way, after you get used to working with those layers, you could just open up the composite tool and you can run it from there. So we're going to create a true color image of onby on May 28th, and that's 2020-0528. So you don't actually have to open up the files and see them in order to run some of these analyses. Okay, so here we have a common error that has happened where I've created my composite and it looks totally messed up, doesn't it? All right, so let's go back in and check. This is a very easy mistake that you just have to watch out for, and that I picked May 28th for band 2 and band 3, but I picked February 13th for band 4. So let me go in and I'm going to fix this. And then I'm going to click OK again. It's going to ask me if I want to override it. I click yes. And there we go. I have my new file, and this is a true color composite. We can see that, you know, the brightness of it. These are things that can be adjusted in some other image processing softwares, but we don't really get a lot of a lot of detail that we can work with here. So that's one reason why we're going to be using the false color images as a good starting point for looking at vegetation. So if you go in to make the false color image, you're going to keep everything the same. Make sure the dates are all the same, but you're going to put band 8, our near infrared, as the red band, and we're going to change our output image to false color, clicking OK. And we got our false color image for May 28th. And we could so we could compare these images side by side, and we see, of course, there's differences in the clouds. And then, we could see, we can use this to look for any major changes, like any major disruptions or major changes to the landscape. And in this case, a quick glance at it doesn't look like much has changed except for maybe around the summit of the volcano. So if we're getting a much more detailed look, we can actually analyze the vegetation change pixel by pixel so that we can actually look at how much actual land surface was affected by the hurricane. We can use some of our other tools, and that's going to be coming up next.